Ever wonder how a night of fun can turn into a night of horror in a blink? That's what happened in Moscow when a concert hall was suddenly transformed into a scene of terror and chaos. A peaceful evening of music and camaraderie was abruptly shattered by the deafening echoes of gunfire as armed assailants stormed the venue. The unsuspecting crowd, anticipating an evening of entertainment, were caught in a deadly hailstorm of bullets, their screams of excitement turning into cries of fear and despair. As the pandemonium ensued, the attackers, clad in combat fatigues, showed no mercy. Their assault rifles spewed death and destruction, indiscriminately claiming 40 innocent lives and leaving more than 100 injured in their wake. The terror did not end there. Amidst the confusion and terror, a massive explosion rocked the concert hall, engulfing the building in flames and trapping concertgoers inside. Yet, amidst the devastation, humanity shone through. Emergency services rushed to the scene, their sirens piercing the night. Braving the flames and the chaos, they worked tirelessly, rescuing scores of people trapped in the basement and providing aid to those who had managed to escape to the roof. Their courage and dedication standing as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. In the face of such a horrific act, the world could only watch in shock and horror. A concert hall once filled with the joyous strains of music now echoed with the sounds of terror and despair. A night that was meant to celebrate life and art turned into a nightmarish tableau of death and destruction. As the concert hall turned into a battlefield, the world watched in shock and horror. The echoes of the gunfire and the sight of the blazing inferno will forever be etched in our minds, a chilling reminder of the fragility of peace and the senseless cruelty of terrorism. What happens when the smoke clears and the immediate danger is past? The aftermath of the concert hall attack in Moscow is a stark tableau of devastation and despair. The official toll stands at 62 lives tragically cut short and over 100 individuals nursing wounds, both physical and psychological. The concert hall, once a symbol of joy and celebration, is now a haunting reminder of a day the city would rather forget. In the wake of the attack, the city's emergency services leapt into action. With the concert hall engulfed in flames, their first task was a daunting one: to evacuate the scores of terrified individuals trapped inside. The collective efforts of these unsung heroes saw the successful rescue of approximately 100 people from the basement, where they had sought refuge from the unrelenting storm of bullets. Others were found huddled on the roof, their desperate cries piercing through the night. As the flames continued to dance menacingly, a new threat emerged. Reports trickled in of a blast, the shockwaves of which added a new layer of chaos to an already catastrophic scene. The source? An explosive device, thought to be the work of the same terrorists responsible for the earlier gunfire. In the days that followed, Moscow bore the scars of its ordeal. Streets once filled with the hum of everyday life fell eerily silent, the air heavy with grief. The concert hall, now a burnt-out shell, stood as a stark reminder of the lives lost and the innocents shattered. But amidst the rubble and the ashes, something else began to emerge. A sense of unity, a collective strength born from shared sorrow. The city, though wounded, was not defeated. As the people of Moscow began to pick up the pieces, their resilience shone through, a beacon of hope in the face of adversity. As the reality of the tragedy sets in, the world begins to mourn. Moscow may bear the physical scars of this heinous act, but the emotional wound is shared by us all. Today we stand with Moscow. Today we remember the victims. Today we say, you are not alone. How does the world react when tragedy strikes? In the wake of the horrific Moscow concert hall attack, the international community has responded with a wave of solidarity and condemnation. From the far corners of the globe, nations have come together to denounce this heinous act of terror. U.S. President, in a press conference, expressed his deepest sympathies, stating, "We stand with the Russian people during this dark hour." His sentiments were echoed by leaders across the world, from the United Kingdom to Australia, from India to South Africa. The United Nations, the epitome of international diplomacy, did not hold back its condemnation. The Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed his outrage, stating, "The United Nations condemns this attack in the strongest possible terms." He urged all nations to cooperate in bringing the perpetrators to justice. Meanwhile, the European Union, often at odds with Russia on various issues, set aside political differences. The EU Parliament passed a resolution condemning the attack and expressing solidarity with the victims and their families. "Our hearts go out to those affected by this senseless act of violence," said the EU Commission President. Even NATO, a military alliance that has had strained relations with Russia, expressed its condolences. The NATO Secretary General stated, "Despite our differences, we are united against terrorism. Our thoughts are with the victims and their families." The international response was not limited to words. Countries offered their assistance in the investigation, with the US and UK offering their expertise in counter-terrorism operations. International relief agencies also sprang into action, offering support to the victims and their families. In the face of such a tragedy, the world stands united. It is a stark reminder that in our shared humanity we find our greatest strength. Terrorism, in any form and against any nation, is a global problem that requires a global solution. Today the world mourns together, and together we will rise against the forces that seek to divide us. What happens in the wake of such a monstrous act of violence? The aftermath of the concert hall attack has triggered a massive investigation, with law enforcement agencies working tirelessly to piece together the horrifying puzzle. The Russian Federal Security Service, or FSB, is leading the probe in a race against time to identify and apprehend the culprits. As the dust settles and the smoke clears, the grim task of sifting through the wreckage begins. Each piece of debris, every scrap of evidence, could hold the key to understanding the motives behind this heinous act. Investigators are meticulously combing the scene, looking for clues that might shed light on the identity of the attackers. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies worldwide are collaborating, sharing information and resources in a united front against terror. The global community stands in solidarity with Moscow, joining the quest for truth and justice. But the investigation is more than just a manhunt. It's a desperate search for understanding, a quest to comprehend the rationale behind such senseless violence. What could drive individuals to commit such a horrifying act? These questions hang heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of our world. Theories abound, some pointing to the recent political tension between Russia and the West, others to the escalating conflict in the Ukraine. But until the culprits are apprehended and their motives fully understood, these remain conjectures, mere shadows in the dark. As the search for answers begins, the world waits with bated breath. The attack on the concert hall was not just an assault on Moscow, but an affront to humanity itself. And as the investigation unfolds, our collective hope remains that justice will be served and that such a tragedy will never be repeated. What does a tragedy of this magnitude mean for the future? This gruesome event shakes not only Russia but the entire world, leaving us questioning the security measures in place and the political consequences that will inevitably follow. In Russia, the echoes of this attack will undoubtedly reverberate through the walls of the Kremlin, prompting a re-evaluation of the current security protocols. It's likely that we'll see a bolstering of security measures at public venues, increased surveillance, and perhaps even the implementation of more stringent anti-terrorism laws. Internationally, this incident serves as a stark reminder of the pervasive threat of terrorism. Countries worldwide may scrutinize their own security measures, particularly in venues where large numbers of people congregate. The ripple effect may extend beyond just physical security, impacting international relations, travel, and global business. Politically, the implications are vast and complex. This attack, coming shortly after President Putin's re-election and amidst escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, could have profound consequences on the geopolitical landscape. It may further strain Russia's relations with the West, particularly given the criticism that followed the US's warning of a potential terror incident. Moreover, the claim of responsibility by the Islamic State could potentially reshape alliances and strategies in the ongoing fight against global terrorism. This incident might spur nations to reconsider their stance on international cooperation in combating this shared threat. Yet, amidst the political maneuverings and policy changes, we must not lose sight of the human cost. The lives lost and the wounds inflicted extend far beyond the physical. The psychological trauma to survivors, their families, and the Russian populace is immeasurable and will take time to heal. As we grapple with the aftermath of this horrific event, we are reminded of the fragility of peace and the importance of unity in the face of adversity.